Hello, America. Bruce Bongardt here, virtual presidential candidate under the Proudican Party. This event being sponsored by www.cf2008ontape.ning.com. Question and answers, Section 2, Energy Issues. Question number 1, what is your energy solution for America, and how will it reduce or eliminate the projected $700 billion annual import costs for foreign oil? Question number 2, how will your solution directly impact Americans? Now let's think about that. $700 billion on an annual basis is what we are importing in foreign oil. Astronomical number. If you extend that across 10 years, for example, we're talking with inflation, that would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 trillion to $10 trillion. That's about 2 or 3 times what our current federal budget is. Astronomical number. Now, what I believe we should do is incorporate a progressive solution, which kind of combines a variety of different energy sources in trying to solve our energy problem. But at the same time, I believe it's a matter of focus. Okay, so from what I mean by that is some candidates are advocating that we should drill, baby drill, and others are advocating nuclear, others are advocating still clean energy types of solutions, such as solar, such as wind, such as tidal, biofuels, all that whole mix. Well, here's the thing, like I said, it should be a combination of all these different things. I'm for nuclear energy, safe nuclear energy. I'm actually for drilling as well, as long as it is going to help us tackle our import problem. $700 billion is going out the window to countries that really don't like us very much, that sponsor terrorism, that sort of thing. So here's my idea, and I'm kind of surprised that some of the other candidates didn't kind of stumble upon this. I know that, for example, Hillary Clinton, Senator Clinton, was actually talking about improving technologies along our border, which I think is an exceptional thing. We absolutely need to do that to stem the tide of immigration into the U.S. as well as stem that tide of illegal drugs into the U.S. Very critical problems there. But at the same time, I believe securing our border is very important from a national sovereignty perspective as well. Well, here's what I think we should do. Here's my solution. I call it a clean energy corridor for all. It's actually a technology corridor, and what I believe we should do is incorporate along that 1,200 mile stretch going from California over to Texas. Let's start out first. The first generation of this technology corridor would be solar, for example, solar and possibly wind, and maybe even tidal in the Gulf area or whatever. Let's start out with those approaches. Let's make it privatized, and let's make it internship sponsored by education. So Senator Obama, if you're out there listening to this, which I hope you are, here's your program. Basically have education kind of tying into helping to manage, helping to construct this technology corridor going all the way along the Southwest. Southwest is ripe with solar energy. And so that is what I really believe we need to tap into. And having this technology corridor going all the way along that 1,200 stretch is actually going to create that physical barrier that a fence basically does. Having it privatized, well, that just means that there's going to be less government expenditures, less government subsidies required to kind of fund this kind of activity. So now also the provision number 1 that I talked about, which was the Proudican calendar, any funds coming from that would actually help to support or drive the cost down on development of this technology corridor. So now what am I talking about? That 1,200 mile stretch, if you break it up into 100-foot parcels, that's about 65,000 units. If you threw a dollar figure of, let's say, $2 million for every 100 foot of parcel, that turns out to be about $130 billion. Not sure if these numbers are exactly accurate, but that's a guesstimate at this point. It would be a rough order of magnitude estimate. It would be federally patrolled by both the U.S. and Mexico, since this is now not just an energy source, and this is very important. This is not just an energy source for the U.S., but it's actually an energy source for Mexico as well. My hope here is that if this technology corridor approach kind of caught on to other countries as well that were neighboring countries, they would adopt a very similar type of solution for their borders. And so here we are talking about a clean energy approach, which is going to definitely do a lot to stem that import cost of foreign oil. Going from south to north, there's a gentleman out in Texas. I'm sure you've heard of him. Question number 3 here is, do you support the Pickens plan? Why or why not? I absolutely endorse the Pickens plan. I think it's bold. I think he's got a tremendously progressive approach at looking at how we should take CNG and introduce it into now the power grid as a power grid solution by having our vehicles convert over to CNG. So now we're going to remove fossil fuels being used as a energy source. Instead, CNG is now being introduced now, and then it's all being replaced by the wind aspect. So think about looking at T. Boone Pickens as a boldly progressive person, because that is exactly what he is. So now we have his energy corridor going across the Midwest with transmission lines popping up as well, going across the Midwest. And my idea that I'm talking about, not necessarily my idea, but our idea, let's call it, is going from west to east, across the Southwest. So they both work complementary. They're both an energy solution. So some other things, what else would this do? Well, along this localized area of this border, of this technology corridor, there would be a tremendous amount of jobs being created. It'd be a growth spurt in those areas. So those localized economies, as well as filtering out into the neighboring areas, would definitely be growing. So now we're talking about an energy source that is not only in the gigawatt range. We're talking about an energy source that on an annual basis generates terawatts of energy. Think about that. Terawatts of energy would definitely have an effect on our current energy demand situation. Question number 4, what role do you think the U.S. government should have in solving both our national and global energy crises? Well, as I mentioned, I'm not huge on government subsidy type programs, so but at the same time, I believe they should sort of encourage this growth, this energy type of solution, and advocate and promote as much as possible these kinds of solutions. But subsidies and funding, I don't believe that's the approach. I believe advertising, promotion, and it's not the government's responsibility to come up with the solutions, the energy solutions. I believe it's private industry as well as educational facilities, university level, to kind of help create these kind of energy solutions. Question number 5. Global warming, truth or myth, and how should we deal with it? Well, I think it is definitely man-made contributing factor here with global warming. I believe Al Gore definitely stumbled upon something with his team in their video, An Inconvenient Truth. I think everybody should check out that video because there's a lot of scientific backing that definitely points to man as being a culprit and the main contributor in global warming. Think about it. As these emissions are being put into our atmosphere or whatever, they are man-made. They are destroying our environment. They are destroying our atmosphere. So everything that we can do to take a look at energy creation from a clean energy approach is absolutely the way we need to go. Think about how much less emissions are going to be produced by going to this clean energy corridor for all. Once again, my name is Bruce Bongardt under the Proudican Party, saying thank you for your attention and take care all.